There are numerous sightings and encounters with extraordinary large, and I mean bizarrely large, owls. Owls so big we can't be sure that they're owls at all. A flying creature which resembles an owl in appearance, but in truth we can't be sure what they are. One such creature is known as Lechuza, or the Owl Witch, and it is so large that it could carry a grown adult in its talons. Some say the Owl Witch preys on adult men, but others claim its preference is newborn babies. Well, I have two chilling true stories which support both these theories. This is a true story about my mum and how I was almost taken by the Owl Witch. This happened when I was only a few weeks old, and my mother had taken me down to Mexico to show me to her family who lived there. When we arrived, her family put on a big party to celebrate my birth and our visit. Now, when the party was over, my grandmother took my mum and I to the guest bedroom where we would be sleeping. My grandma had bought an old school bassinet for me to sleep in, while my mother slept in a bed just across from me. My mum set me in the bassinet and put two small pillows beside me because she said she was afraid of me accidentally bumping my head. As we got settled in, my grandma's Rottweiler named Rocky came in, and Mum says that he stubbornly refused to leave the room, so she just let him stay in there with us. It was also particularly hot that night, so my mum had opened a sliding glass door that led to a small balcony, just to let some air in for the night, and we were up on the second floor, so she felt pretty safe leaving it open. Well, soon after that, she got settled into her bed and went to sleep. It was around 3 a.m, she said, when she woke up to the sound of loud growls and barks from Rocky. It immediately struck her as strange because he never acted that way. He was a relatively quiet and gentle dog, so this was immediately alarming to her. Then she heard me crying in a hysterical kind of a cry, and she rushed over to me, and she said, shocked and speechless at the sight of me. I was lying on my stomach face down on the little mattress. So she immediately picked me up to comfort me, then turned her attention to Rocky, who was still growling and barking uncontrollably. He was facing the balcony, so my mother turned to see what he could possibly be barking at, and screamed when she saw it. She explained it was the ugliest and most gigantic owl that she's ever seen. Its mouth and wings were wide open, and its feathers seemed to be as black as coal. Well, Rocky then ran to the balcony in an attempt to catch it, but the owl quickly flew away into the darkness. My grandpa had heard the commotion and came to check on us, and he found my mother in the middle of the room on the floor, holding me like she was shielding me from something, and Rocky was still on the balcony, barking into the night sky. A bit later on, my grandma was trying to calm my poor mum down, and my grandpa was holding on to me. That's when he saw that there was a large scratch on my leg. He also pointed out that the pillows that my mother had used to keep my head in place were on the other side of the room, as if they'd been tossed out of the way. Well, these days, my mother likes to tell me that I survived a kidnapping attempt. Whenever I go visit my family, they always call me Lechuzita as a remembrance for surviving a Lechuza. How good was Rocky? Absolutely fearless. What a dog. It makes you wonder, though, him insisting on sleeping in that room that night. I wonder if he knew that the baby was at risk. The Owl Witch is most often white or black and believed to possess human-type features of the face, and she has been reported as being up to 7 feet tall and with a wingspan of 15 feet. She knows her strength and is definitely not intimidated by cars. In fact, there are reports of her not only swooping down on cars, but matching the speed of cars which are fleeing from her. Now, if you are out at night, it is often said never to whistle 2 times at midnight, for this is as good as an invitation to the Owl Witch. Well, I wonder if that's what happened in our next story. I've lived in South Texas my whole life, and this happened to me about 20 years ago. Well, I've always been a night owl myself, and of course my friends were too. One time, after hanging out at a friend's place, we decided to call it a night, and he said that he'd drive me home, but we started to chat a bit outside his house before we left. So we're standing there, and he stood on the driver's side of the truck while I stood on the passenger side of the truck. The sky was clear, and I remember the moon was out, and it was a full moon or almost a full moon, and we heard this whistle, and we both looked up at exactly the same time, and we saw a bird, a huge bird, and we heard the wind, or not the wind, but when the bird would flap its wings, we could hear the flap of it. And we were just silent with our mouths open, and we saw it move swiftly through the night sky, and we literally kept looking at it while it disappeared into the horizon. But it was, I swear to you, miles away, and we could still see it. We could still see the wings flapping up and down. We just stood there for what felt like 5 minutes till we turned and looked at each other, and we both just said, "La Lechuza, the Owl Witch." Never again have I ever seen anything like that. The Owl Witch is formidable. She is clearly powerful, but is also highly intelligent. She is said to sometimes mimic the cry of a baby or a person whistling in order to lure someone out of a house or deeper into woods or forests. And what happens next? You can be sure it's nothing good. The behaviour of the Owl Witch is singular, defined. Her motivation is fairly clear. She hunts to eat, and nighttime is her feeding time. A good reason to keep your eyes and ears open, wouldn't you say? Thanks for being with me today. If you enjoyed this video, I think you'll like the one that's on screen now too. Just click on it to watch. And remember, it's a strange world. Be kind. Cheerio.